How the quarterbacks will be on full display the next couple of weeks, starting here in Jacksonville on Saturday with Chargers versus the Jaguars. More on that here on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Locked On Jaguars. I am your host, Tony Wiggins, your host of the daily Locked On Jaguars podcast, where it's your team every day, and we thank you for making us your first listen. I want to remind you that we are free on all platforms, wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you like and subscribe to the YouTube page as well. Tell your family members to come along. Every single place where you can get a podcast, you'll find Locked On Jaguars. Today's episode of Locked On Jaguars is presented by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. Pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than their PrizePicks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on your entry. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code Locked On. That's right, the promo code Locked On, all one word. That's PrizePicks.com, promo code Locked On. How y'all doing? I'm doing good, man. Can't wait until I don't rush days, though. I was going to say I can't wait until this weekend's game, but you know what? We got a couple of days or a few days before that, so we're going to enjoy each and every one of these. Today, what we're going to talk about is a distinct advantage I believe the Jaguars have. We've talked about the two most important aspects of any team over a long haul being the coach and the quarterback and the coach, or whatever combination you want to throw in there. Well, this week it's Justin Herbert versus Trevor Lawrence, or is it Brandon Staley versus Doug Peterson? Why I believe that the second part of that matchup is the most important one, and it's going to be the one I believe gives the Jaguars an advantage. Segment 2, we'll talk about the quarterbacks and whoever advances, what they'll be facing likely in the next round of the AFC playoffs, and why it's important to have a really, really good to great quarterback in the AFC right now, because it seems like that's where they all are. It's better to have one, to have a dog in the fight, than not have one and have to build your team in other ways. So we'll talk about that. Gotcha moments from 2022. I'm going to put myself in the line of fire first, but I'll explain those too. And if you're a listener of the podcast on more than an occasional basis, you'll understand that I often do autocorrect right smack in the middle of the season. But I got a little smoke coming my way from people that think that I wishy-washied a little bit, if that's what you want to call it. I'm going to explain that, because that's exactly what I do not do. Because if you listen every day, I explain every single thing that I say and why I say it. But I'll go back over and give you some cliff notes here in segment 3. So those gotcha moments, the ones that folks think that, I remember you said this. Well, I'll pull them out. I'll pull my own receipts out, since I pulled some yesterday that told you that I said they will win the AFC South division. I'll pull the ones that I know all of y'all have been waiting to get to, because trust me, I had 2 or 3 people tell me yesterday about those. But first, the Justin Herbert matchup with Trevor Lawrence. To be a young, good quarterback right now in the NFL, you're always going to be beholden to the comparison and being lumped into some sort of, where do you rank with this guy or that guy? First of all, number one on that list is Patrick Mahomes. No one is ranking young quarterbacks to Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers at this stage of their career. That's just, you kind of sort of just leave them out of it. But it's Patrick Mahomes, it's Josh Allen, who a lot of people believes is Patrick Mahomes just without a title. Like most people believe that Buffalo wouldn't trade Josh Allen for Patrick Mahomes straight up. I believe that. I don't think they would. But Mahomes is number one because he's won the championship and the MVP. Number 2 is Josh Allen by a neck, according to a lot of people. I was late to that party, but I get what everybody's saying now. Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow believes that his head belongs in that other room too. So those are the top three guys. And if the playoff rankings go the way everyone anticipates that they'll go, those will be three of the four guys who will be standing in week 2. The other guy will be determined by who wins the game between Justin Herbert and Trevor Lawrence. As of this point, up to this point, Justin Herbert has been the other guy in that room, along with um, um, Joe Burrow, as well as a former MVP in Lamar Jackson, who is also in the playoffs, who might also find himself upsetting Cincinnati and getting to that second round. With the injury to Tua Tagovailoa, who would be the other quarterback in, now you would have all of these young dudes who you've heard either mentioned to be at the top, which is Patrick Mahomes and um, Patrick Mahomes, along with Josh Allen, and maybe a little bit of Joe Burrow, and then the MVP that everybody doesn't really give enough respect to, and Lamar Jackson. But you heard these other heads coming in. You heard Tua. You heard the possibility of. You heard Herbert was mentioned in that group over Tua, and then the possibility of Trevor Lawrence maybe being able to penetrate it. So it doesn't take a it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that, especially in the AFC, the teams with the best quarterbacks are the ones that have a chance to go. What I want to discuss is that even if the quarterbacks are awash this week, we've talked about the combination of quarterback play along with the head coach. Doug Peterson has won a Super Bowl. Now, winning that Super Bowl by itself doesn't mean that he's going to have success. But what it does mean is he knows how to navigate through the playoffs. He knows what it takes to motivate your team to play a winner take all sudden death game. Knows the flow of the practice, knows how to get his team to respond to the extra media work. If you haven't done it, I would assume that you probably don't know how to do it, or is that you're guessing. And at some point, Doug Peterson hadn't done it and he got it right. So it doesn't mean that the person with the least amount of experience can get it right. I do, however, love the fact that the coach with the most important, or um, the coach with the most important role on the team, obviously, is the head coach, but that coach's his imprint and his fingerprint on the game is going to be, when it's Doug Peterson, he's going to be dealing directly with Trevor Lawrence. So, like, coach used to be a quarterback. He's going to have, and I'm not really, in the past, I've never really been like, you got to hire an offensive coach or you got to hire a defensive coach. No. It's just that in this matchup, we talk about coach and quarterback. Belichick was defense, Brady was offense. So, look, I get it. Mike Tomlin was defense, Pete Carroll was defense, their quarterback. Well, I get it. It's not necessarily an event. In this game, I think it is, because I do believe Brandon Staley is a defensive coach. And I believe in a game like this with these two quarterbacks, I would rather have my guy, my head coach on the sideline being the dude. Because the reason why is because I think I'd rather have my coach on the sideline being a guy who has an offensive background. He's going to be his imprint is going to be directly attributed to Trevor Lawrence, because I think to win this game, you got to score 30. That's what I was getting to. To win this game, you got to score 30. Therefore, advantage Doug Peterson, because I don't think Brendan Staley is going to stop Doug Peterson from getting 30 points. It has a little bit to do with the early season matchup, but it has more to do with the fact that I just believe that Doug Peterson is going to have a huge impact on this game. He has to. His team has never really been there before. They're one of the youngest teams in the league. He's probably going to have to coach Trevor down in his emotions a little bit so the ball doesn't come out high. That's one of the concerns I may or may not have. We'll talk about that a little bit next week. What I want to do is look into why it is important that you have a really good quarterback, considering the top 6 or top 7 guys in the AFC, considering that they're all mostly young people. You hear me? They are mostly young people. So, we're not comparing it to a bunch of old guys, not comparing it to a bunch of veterans. We're actually telling you that, listen, if you don't have a quarterback right now, you better find your way to get one, because it is going to be extremely difficult to build your team moving forward. It's going to be extremely difficult to be one of those teams that the Jaguars were in the past without a really good quarterback, and try to find a way to build your team to the point where, oh, they're going to be able to compete against these teams that have these quarterbacks year in and year. That's a hard thing to do. And nobody knows that more. Nobody knows that more than Jaguar fans, because you saw it firsthand. We're going to talk about these quarterbacks. We're going to talk about the impact that they can have on the playoffs, including yours truly, Trevor Lawrence. We'll do that in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. I'll let you know about PrizePicks, man. PrizePicks, of course, is today's sponsor of our show. And PrizePicks is daily fantasy. They have entries. Those entries have player projections, and you have to decide whether it's more or less. Now, I'll give you an example. Trevor Lawrence, what do you think the designated number, the projection that is going to be placed on Trevor Lawrence as a football player to throw touchdowns? I would say maybe 2.5. You have to decide whether he's going to have a better day than 2.5, which is more, or maybe the game goes a little bit different, which is less. And if you do that with 2 or more entries, you can pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than their prize pick projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. No competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available. Download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code Locked On. If your deposit is $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. If it's $50, they will give you $50. Don't forget to enter the promo code Locked On at sign up for an instant deposit match of $100. All right, man. So it's that time of year. You guys know exactly the time of year I'm talking about. That's right. You know what time it is. Not taxes. That's right. Go to TurboTax and don't do your taxes. Meet with an expert who'll do them for you. TurboTax experts can relieve you from the stress of taxes and file for you so you can do not taxes. That's right. Show your eyes things that are not taxes. Unpack and moving boxes of not taxes. Taste some not taxes. Sing not taxes a lullaby. Hope not taxes sleeps through the night. Grab a saddle and ride not taxes into the sunset. With TurboTax, an expert will do your taxes from start to finish, ensuring your taxes are done right, guaranteed. So you can relax. Feels good to be done with your taxes, doesn't it? That's right, because it's not taxes, because of TurboTax. Come to TurboTax and don't do your taxes. Visit TurboTax.com to learn more. Intuit TurboTax, full service products only. Video meeting while expert does your taxes required. See guaranteed details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. Remember, it's not taxes, because you're not going to do them. TurboTax will. All right, man, rolling along here. Segment 2 on Locked On Jaguars, where it's your team every day. We thank you for your first listen. Feeling better, by the way. Kudos. Still got a little pain, but a lot of people ask me about that all the time. How you doing, Wig? Feeling better. Doing everything I'm supposed to do. So, if you're a team in the NFL, especially in the AFC, you need to be doing whatever you're supposed to do and try to get a quarterback who can play. Because, just in case you haven't noticed, there are a lot of good ones who are going to be playing for an awful long time, and it looks like they're going to be in the AFC. When you think about Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, well, I probably named the top 4 on everybody's list, right? You throw in Lamar Jackson, who's a former MVP who doesn't get as much respect, and then you put Trevor Lawrence into that category, who has been the hottest quarterback the second half of the 2022 season, and you see why the top 6 quarterbacks, outside of Brady and Rodgers, of course, I think they reside in the AFC. So a lot of y'all can look at this as bad luck and say, hey, man, we finally get Trevor Lawrence, and now there's 5 or 6 other generational quarterbacks in our conference. But that's just bad luck. Well, I'm going to give you an idea and a hint how to look at that I don't think is bad luck. I think it's good fortune. It's really good fortune. It's good fortune that you got to be in the race to win. Don't show up at Churchill Downs the first weekend with a quarter horse, the first weekend in May. Now you need a thoroughbred. There's 20 of them, but you got a 1 in 20 chance. But without a thoroughbred, if you got a quarter horse, you ain't winning the Kentucky Derby. You need elite to compete against elite at that position. And that's what the Jaguars have. They get to play Justin Herbert this week, who is also one of those guys. And the winner has to either go to see Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, or Josh Allen next week. And then the winner of those two games, they meet up. And somebody goes to the Super Bowl, and oh, by the way, you just might run into a little bit of a buzzsaw out there in Jalen Hurts, who is one of those guys that people are now putting in that category and is an MVP candidate. I'm going to say Dak Prescott because Dak is having his issues right now, but you could run into the 49ers in their stingy defense. The thing is don't fret or don't be upset or a little bit sad that once you finally get good at quarterback, that everybody else around you that can get in your way, they seem to have gotten good at quarterback as well. Nope. Don't even worry about that, man. What you have to focus on more is good thing you have one. Because if you did not have one, you would absolutely be out of gas for the next decade or so. I can guarantee you every single year, one of those quarterbacks I just mentioned, including your own, they're going to be the ones, I say over the next 11, 12 years or so, the people I just named, including Trevor, they're going to be the ones that are going to be in there winning these championships and contending for them. It's just the way it always works. Just thank your lucky stars that you have somebody who can be into that bunch, who can get into that bunch, and who are being mentioned with those guys. I'll tell you more about it in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. To let you know that today's show is sponsored by BetOnline.net, because BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from pro football to college bowl season to basketball and World Cup. We've got it all at BetOnline.net. If you love sports podcasts, you can even find those at BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get you betting. Y'all believe in those New Jersey Nets or those Brooklyn Nets yet? I know they can't rebound and still don't play defense, but they will light you up. That's all right. And they're in second place behind Boston Celtics. They're coming. That's right. You need to learn that too. And you can look at all of the information to make sure every single time before you make a wager at BetOnline, because BetOnline is where the game starts. You head to your website today, or you use your mobile device to learn that BetOnline is where the game starts. And y'all start here with us every single day, because Locked On Jaguars is your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast, where you make us your first listen. You need to be making your second listen the Locked On Sports Today show, because they're going to broaden your horizons. They're going to broaden things. They're going to give you an outlook and an overview of sports all over the country, with the biggest sports stories from all over the country. But guess who they're going to use? Guys like me, local experts, people who really know what's moving and shaking with these stories. So make sure you Find the Locked On Sports Today podcast and like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast because it's your team every day. We were talking about why you have to have one of these quarterbacks. And I'm gonna finish that subject up real quick before I get to the gotcha moment that a few people are pointing to me yet. Yeah, I'm gonna lay into you, so you might as well come on here. You want to type all of that stuff. You're gonna get this work, okay? You got to have a quarterback just to even be in the ball game. I feel sorry for teams that don't have one, or teams that are going to do what the Jaguars did for a number of years, which is make a mistake on investing in one and be shut out of what is going on here. Because if you don't have one of these young guys or have the capability to grab one now, and there's some more coming. I like two of the quarterbacks in this year's draft. I really like two that's going to be in the one after that. So, we ain't gonna start mentioning the names, but those are they're those types of people. So I think the quarterback position is going to be in a good place for a long time. You're going to get the first glance of it this week in this weekend's game with the Chargers and the Jaguars. All right, gotcha moments. Here we go. I had some people tell me, whether it be on YouTube or social media or in the comments on wherever you get your audio podcast, that I'm a bandwagon guy and I wanted to fire everybody. And I said that Trevor Lawrence was not. I'll tell you everything I said. It's one point this year. I said Trevor's not elite. And if you listen to the podcast, what you heard was that he has elite characteristics. He has to start playing like he's elite, because until you're playing like an elite person week in and week out, and to be elite, you need consistency week in and week out. If you recall, I said you have to close that variance between how great you can be and how bad you can be. Because being great one day and being bad another does not make you elite. What makes you elite is to play at a high level and consistently do it all the time, and that's just who you are. So when I said he wasn't elite, he wasn't playing like he was elite. And then he started playing like he was elite, and I said, now he's playing like he's elite, so he is elite. The advantage, the thing that I compared it to was once my grandmother asked me what were my dreams and goals, and I told them what they were. And she said, well, what are you doing now? And I told her what I was doing now. And she knew who I was hanging around. And she said, is he a part of your dreams and goals? I said, no. She says, why do you hang around him? I said, because that's where I am. I don't have nothing to do. And she says, well, you are what you hang around, and you are where you're blank, that thing you're sitting on that begins with an A, and usually is referred to when you're talking about a donkey. You are where that says you are. So until you change and start doing something else, no, you're just dreaming about that, but you are this, right? So I use that example. Trent Baalke, another gotcha moment from lovely fans that hit me up. If you recall, I was the one that asked if we owed Baalke an apology. My problem wasn't ever with Trent Baalke. My problem was always against not totally starting over. And if anyone has heard this podcast long enough, you know that that's what it's been. When I questioned Baalke later, I said, maybe we owe him an apology, but maybe we don't. Maybe he's done better than we thought, but maybe he's still not the person to lead us into the next step. We give Doug Peterson so much credit for how he changed Trevor Lawrence and how he changed the locker room. When you do that, folks will say, don't forget about Trent. Okay, well, Trent got those same players and he had Urban Meyer, right? So are we going to give Urban and Doug all of the blame and the credit, right, respectively, and just totally leave Trent out of it? Or are we going to include Trent in it a little bit? Because if you look at the draft picks from 2021, they look great. They look great. Walker Little, he's another gotcha. I'm going to talk about him in a moment too. And Josh Allen. Y'all don't have the privy of, and I'm not being big time when I say this. You don't hear everything that we hear. You don't see everything that we see. You're not told everything that we're told. Some of it's off the record, and a lot of it develops our opinions. And those opinions come from the people y'all are caping up for right now sometimes. My sentiment about Josh Allen is one that a year ago was given to me by somebody in the building, that he wasn't the number one pass rusher. Josh Allen has 2.5 sacks for the year. Y'all gonna pay him $25 million for 2.5 sacks and being opportunistically in a place to scoop a ball up and score when y'all said he shouldn't be in coverage anyway? Come on, man. Just be honest and just be fair. Mine has always been about who you pay and why you pay him. It's not about one scoop fumble and a play. That's not it. It's 3 years of lining up. Now, I appreciate him being where he was. I appreciate him scooping it up and scoring a touchdown and having the wherewithal and athleticism to pull it. All of that. Because, look, until somebody does get traded or cut, they're on your team. You might as well cheer for them. I used the Doug Urban example, and I'll go a step further. The Eagles fired Doug Peterson. I know Eagles fans that they thought it was a mistake, right? We're glad he was available because now somebody else's trash is your treasure. Philly has the best record in the league this year without him. And I'm not saying Doug's not valuable, but what I'm saying is okay, somebody up there wanted him fired and look where they are. It doesn't always have to be gotcha. You wanted to trade Walker Little. Yeah, I wanted to trade Walker Little while Cam Robinson was healthy. I don't want to trade Walker Little while Cam Robinson's hurt. And I know a lot of the talk was, well, what if Cam Robinson gets hurt? Okay, you're right. It worked out that way. But what if he didn't? What if he didn't and he's being paid this whole time while Walker Little is still under contract? And now Walker Little is going to look like his depth. If Cam comes back, somebody's going back to the bench, especially if they keep Juwan Taylor. So at what point do Jaguar fans say, hey, can we get a backup somewhere else and maximize our leverage with one of these dudes and turn it into something else? Y'all going to be saying the same thing. You just caught up in the moment right now because things are working good. I don't have the luxury of being caught up in the moment every single day when I do a podcast. We have to think about these bigger issues. But the last but not least, I'm going to jump on you because you said this and you said that. You ignore the thing that I said all year, that I thought they were going to win the division. And when they weren't, I was upset. You ignore the fact that you would point your finger at me, like the dude that is standing up in front of people about the Jaguars, talking good about the city, saying that the city, I get sick and tired of the city being blamed for stuff, telling you the stuff I said about Urban. And I don't know, I know y'all, the fans aren't monolithic, but whoever it is probably someone who also tried to cape up for Urban Meyer and say, you're just making stuff up. They're probably the same type of person who was mad at me when I said that Chad Muma was going to start getting some of Devin Lloyd's snaps, and it happened. I got accused of starting stuff. I promise you, and this is the last time I'm going to say this so humbly and apologetically. If I don't say stuff you want me to say on here, I'm sorry. But what I say comes from great sources, and I think it's proven over and over again. Besides, you always have this opportunity to start you a podcast. There's all these streaming services. You can use it for free, and you can put your stick on it and compete against me. Go ahead. I don't care. But never, ever would I have selective memory and not mention the things that I wanted to do that didn't turn out. Oh, if we're going to do that one, then whoever is against me, you probably don't want to listen over the years when you want to talk about who's been right and who's been wrong. I'm just warning you. I'm not going to sit here and make my whole show about the opinions of 7 or 8 people. The last thing you want me to do is start pulling receipts out here on who's been right or wrong about the Jaguars for the last 10 years. Trust me, I won't have no problems. You won't have no problems either, man, as long as you hang in there this week, because we're going to continue to talk playoffs, matchups, biggest keys. We have a crossover edition coming down the pike this week. So get ready for it, man, because they're going to turn up. I'm trying to figure out what the uniforms are going to be so we can all turn up and wear the same color. And I want to hear that stadium go crazy again. Quarterbacks, Justin Herbert coming in here and trying to separate himself from Trevor Lawrence. That's what we discussed today. We'll discuss more as the week goes on. Until then, you guys take care of each other. Keep taking care of each other. We'll see you next time here on Locked On Jaguars.